Good afternoon, folks. Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilia here, hanging out in the Severe Weather Forecast Center back in behind the set. You can see it back in behind me here. Talking about the severe weather threat as we move through Super Bowl Sunday, because I know that's what everyone kind of cares about right now. And here's the setup as we use twisterdata.com, like we always like to do. This is your surface temperatures, and you can see that we will be a little bit warmer on Super Bowl Sunday down here at the surface. We're watching a front come through, and usually when you get warmer temperatures, you get a nice cold front, and you get some pretty cold air back behind that cold front. Oftentimes you're talking about an opportunity for showers and thunderstorms down here in the Pine Belt, and well, it's no different, but there is something that's a little bit different with this one, and that is I don't think we're going to pool enough moisture here at the surface. But like I always like to do, let's start aloft, and we'll go up to about 300 millibars or so way up in the atmosphere. And we're looking at the black lines here. I'll outline them in red, and we're trying to see if we can get any spreading. If we go from thinner lines back here to farther apart lines over here, that's not necessarily the case, so we're not lowering the pressure aloft, which means that we're not allowing space to put all of that more moist air at the surface. We're not getting a lot of vertical motion in the atmosphere. As you head up to about 500 millibars or head back down to 500 millibars or so, and you look for all the energy, it's still way back off to the south and west. Then you head to 700 millibars. Again, we're moving down even though the numbers are going up because we're talking about air pressure here. Pressure gets higher as you head down. And vertical velocity, you look for the oranges and the reds, and we got one little ball, and that's about it. There's really not much vertical motion happening across the entire state of Mississippi, and not down here in the Pine Belt. Most of it is just offshore, so says the NAM, the 12Z NAM from today. Okay, well, how much instability are we talking about? Cape, not much there either. The 750, the green, it's all the way down here. Usually you'd like anywhere between about 5 and 1,500 joules per kilogram, which is the measurement over here. And we're going to have about 200 to 500 or so based on this latest model across our neck of the woods. So that's not looking great. Our EHI, still not looking terrific, under about 0.5 or so. Lifted indices are okay, but we're still in the green. Back off, basically bisecting the area from northeast to southwest. And the green, back over here, we're talking about -1 to -2. Really, for some good severe weather, you'd really like to be anywhere between -4 and about a -8 or so. And so there's really not much happening there either. Now, sometimes we're talking about what we call low Cape high shear events. There's not much instability, but there's enough spin in the atmosphere to really get things going. And usually when we talk about that, we're looking at helicity values up over about 300 to 350, perhaps even approaching 400. And for tomorrow, well, it looks like we're in kind of the orange area, which is about 200 to 250, and below 300. That 300 line looks to stay just north of I-20 or along the I-20 corridor. The really good helicity values are well up into parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. They're not worried about severe weather, though. It's going to be too cold for them. And then we look at shear values. This is from the surface to about 500 millibars or so, and that's about 6 kilometers up. And, we're kind of hanging out down here again, and about 40 to about 60 knots or so. Bring it over and look at the 3K shear, which is about 30 to 40. Really, this isn't too much. If you watch these videos on a semi-regular basis, whenever I put them out, oftentimes, so we're talking about shear values, sure, between about 40 and 60, and sure, above 35. But the helicity values are a little bit higher. Our Cape is a little bit higher. We have some vertical velocity. We've got different ingredients that we just don't necessarily have this time. Take it over to the SKU-T. And again, this is a measurement, temperature here, and then pressure here. Here's your 700 millibars, here's your 500 millibars, 300 millibars. This is all basically, we were just looking at the maps, and now we're taking the maps out and making a graph out of it. The temperature lines, they go kind of sideways, though, and then that can be kind of confusing, but it really helps make this line look normal. So your temperature lines go sideways, or kind of slantways, and we look at this, and usually if you want to make severe weather down here, you have to have an 850 millibar temperature up around 15 or so. So kind of in that neighborhood. We're all the way back here at about 9 or 10. And you really like your 500 millibar temperature to be about 15 below or so. And that's give or take where we're at. So we're doing okay in that respect, but we're missing a lot of other ingredients. And this is the NAM. We can look at the GFS, and it's really no different. The tough thing is when you see a temperature line like this, one that kind of falls back on itself, it means that we're not warming things up as you move down, and you really want to pool that warm air at the surface. So as the sun, for example, we'll make a sun down here, as the sun heats up the ground, you want this line to kind of drift out like that, because that shows that we've got more heat down here. We can then hold more moisture. The green line here is that dew point line. It's right there. That's a terrible arrow. But what you want is if this line comes out, then your dew point line can also come out, and you've got more moisture here at the surface that can rise up, and that's how you make clouds, showers, and thunderstorms. So we don't necessarily have a lot of the ingredients. But that doesn't mean that you can't see severe weather. If you look at the CIPS analogs, this is basically looking back in time at the top 15 analogous events. So we've seen this setup before. What happened last time? That this low was placed here, and our 850 millibar temperature was this, and at 500 millibars the winds were doing that. If we have similar ingredients in the past, what happened? Well, according to the CIPS analog here, we did have some reports of severe weather across the area. That does include a couple of tornadoes, some hail, and some wind. And that's for the mid-morning through mid-afternoon. If you look at the percent chance that you do see any severe weather or severe reports, again, this could be anything, be it hail, flash flooding, tornadoes, or a straight-line wind. You're looking at about a 40% chance, looking back in time, in parts of Louisiana. For us, 15 to 30% chance or so. Now, into the afternoon, look how widespread these severe reports are. And again, this could be anything. This isn't necessarily dire events. Oh, so many tornadoes. No, look at the tornado reports. I mean, only 8. One significant and one long track. And yes, it does only take one, but that's good news. Instead of seeing, 40, 50, 60, 70% on here, we're still looking about 15 to 30% across most of the area. So then you can take that and you can say, okay, cool. Let's take that information and let's make a prediction for the future. Instead of looking back in time, now let's look forward in time. The CIPS analogs out of St. Louis University, by the way, very cool site. You're looking at anywhere between about a 5 and 15% chance from mid-morning to mid-afternoon, and about a 5% chance from about lunch all the way through about 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. So the ingredients aren't great, the setup isn't perfect, but you still could see a severe report. Now, again, that could be anything. What about tornadoes? Well, let's look at the top 8 analogous events for tornadoes in the mid-morning, and we can do that for the afternoon as well. And really not that exciting. Less than 2% chance for pretty much the entire area both days. So that's good news if you're just trying to enjoy the game and you don't really want to worry about what's happening with the weather. We can look at the RPM computer model run. I'm going to run this back a little bit. We're going to start, this is about, let's go about 10 o'clock or so in the morning, and maybe a couple of showers out here, and this is where I'm concerned. Is, you get these showers out ahead of, here's your cold front. You get the showers out ahead of the cold front. Those are the ones that we're most concerned about becoming severe. But notice that most everything kind of leaves us alone until the cold front arrives. There it is. As we head through late afternoon and into the evening. So there you have it. I mean, it's really not great. We can go ahead and look at the numbers. If you run the sweat values, you're looking at anywhere between about 225 or so and about 340, which isn't terrific. By the way, here's your optimum. This is, if you really want to bake up some good severe weather, you want numbers kind of in line with these. About 460 on your sweat, about 60 or so your total totals, about 45 or so with the K-index and a BRN at about anywhere between 12 and 15. And we really don't have that. I mean, we're sitting in the mid-40s to low 50s for your total totals. Your K-index is all the way down in the 20s, and your BRN is sitting down in the single digits. So Really not a primo setup for any kind of severe weather. I made mention of this on the Facebook page that hey, we could see some severe weather. The models have kind of been all over the road with this, but it is possible, and it still is. And we'll still keep an eye on it, but I wouldn't go canceling any plans. Just make sure you have a NOAA weather radio handy, like always. But don't cancel any plans. I wouldn't curtail any plans either. Just go about your business, do your normal Super Bowl thing, enjoy the game, and just know that we'll keep a close eye on things down here. If anything should develop, we will, of course, let you know first thing first.